honestly, I have goose pimples. How about you? Yes. Good. According to German punctuality, we start this event at 15:15. So we are more or less in time. Hello and good afternoon. The board had been so kind to invite Peggy and me to welcome you, and she will give you a bit more explanation about that. So good afternoon and enjoy the rest of what is coming.
So obviously Helmut and I are not Frances. And you know now that Frances is not here this year, but don't worry. She will be back next year when we hold the conference in, got to wait till Friday. And so,
as we feel as grandparents of the industry, how shall I interpret that laughter?
Yeah.
Grandparents stand for family, and we want to show you a film about the family.
Well, when I think of EuRA, I think of a saying in French, on ne choisit pas sa famille, mais on choisit ses amis, which means that you do not choose your family, but you choose your friends. I joined the relocation industry in 2000. I went to my first EuRA conference in 2001, and I met with many people that were in other countries but facing similar problems than I was. All of the jargon of the business, everything that could be done, it was a much faster way of learning about the business. Because I was always there, because I was involved, it was like a logical follow-up to become a board member at EuRA. And I've done a lot of things with boards. Together with Tom, I created the MIM Day 4, the intercultural MIM training. And the idea was to give a training that was really hands-on, made specifically for destination service provider, so that the consultant could connect to the assignees and the family in a much better way by understanding cultural differences. Asking me to do the cross-cultural training proved to me that this is really what I like to do. There are lots of people that are coming at the conference for the first time, and I really feel like I'm showing them everything that they can get out of EuRA. EuRA helped me discover my passion and go deeper into it. There are up to 3 days of different sessions. It's a creativity pool. All that sharing of experience, ideas, and solutions that is fantastic. You have people coming from all over the world that have been working virtually for a very long time. So it's a very good moment to have a non-virtual meeting, finally. It's like going to a family reunion, but the one you enjoy, not the one that you have to go to. It's more than friendship, it's more than business, and it's a lot of fun also. The conference has a lot of socializing, and it has always a fantastic gala dinner. And the EuRA board is always trying to find fantastic venues to have those events. I'm massively tired at the end of the conference. It's a great feeling of having done in 3 or 4 days what you would usually do in 2 months. But I'm the last one working. I've been the DJ for EuRA for several years now. So I will play only joyful songs that are about love, family, putting people together. It's the people that makes EuRA so special. EuRA for me is family.
So, as the only other recipient of the EuRA Award and a past president, it's only fitting that Helmut introduce you to our 20th anniversary board. So we'd like to ask the board to please come up on the stage.
I will, one after the other.
No.
Not all at a time. I read the name and you please come in that sequence. Andrew Scott as president. Stuart McAllister, vice president. Susanna Bourne. Michelle Bramstoff. Isabelle Cudel. Pierre Geronimo. Alistair Murray. Watch at the glasses. Isabelle Prémont. And finally, but definitely not, Elisabeth Sommer. Last but not least.
And our esteemed leaders, Tad and Dom.
So, thank you very much, Helmut. Thank you very much, Peggy. Welcome to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome, literally, to Dubrovnik and this amazing resort. When we go and out to choose resorts or places in which to hold the conference, we do this years in advance. And so we came here to Dubrovnik some 3 years ago when we were planning on having roughly 600 delegates. We now, of course, have 700. So the logistics can be quite complicated, and we've tried to get everybody accommodated as best we can, but thank you very much for still attending and standing by us. We hope to overcome these problems in future years. The theme that we will be looking at this year is embracing change, thriving or surviving. Over the coming days, we will examine how change affects our clients, our businesses, and ourselves. In EuRA's 20th year, we will be looking at the future of our industry and the changes that are coming our way. But just for once, we're also going to look at the past. Because I believe if you don't look at the past, you will not understand where we are today. And from where we are today, you cannot possibly approximate what's going to happen in the future. So please check out the program. We've got the broadest selection of sessions this year, and you'll be able to choose from advances in IT, the onward march of compliance, particularly GDPR. EuRA has, in fact, done its own GDPR audit, and I can assure you it's absolutely not terrifying. It's not nearly as bad as you think. We will also be looking at the roads of success, pathways through a career in mobility, and importantly, what happens afterwards when you leave the industry. Our two keynote speakers will discuss the impact of the future and how we will shape the future in our work. Of course, for those of you who've been members of the EuRA family, you will remember Frances Edmonds. The mention has already been made that Frances is not here. For those of you who haven't got a clue who Frances is, she is a winning writer, columnist, TV personality, and comedian, and she has been hosting our conference now for 10 years. This year, Frances is undertaking a fellowship at the Distinguished Careers Institute at Stanford University in California. So next year, she will be bringing us her wit and brilliance back to us, being enhanced by her experiences of working with some of the world's brightest minds. So look forward to that. She is, in fact, going to try and wish us well at some point during the conference via Facebook. I beg your pardon? FaceTime. Oh, FaceTime. I love social media. You know, with a conference, there are always so many people to thank. So I asked a friend of mine if he could possibly make a little film to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors and their support, we wouldn't be able to do many of the things that we do for you at the conference.
EuRA would like to thank our conference sponsor, Court Global Network, our gala dinner sponsor, Dwellworks, our Banging Banji Beach Bash sponsors, Nordic Relocation Group and Wycott Workforce Mobility, our gold sponsors, AIRS, Aurus Relocation, BGRS, In Touch Relocations, the MI Group, Cartus, Japan Mobility, Grable Relocation, Palladium Mobility Group, Server Worldwide Relocation and Moving. We'd also like to thank our silver sponsors, our bronze sponsors, our event sponsors, and our gift sponsors. Finally, we'd like to thank all those of you who are in the exhibitors hall outside this room. Thank you.
Okay, enough of me. We're now going to follow a EuRA tradition, and this year's song has been written by none other than Dominic. And he is going to lead you.
Thank you, Ted. I think it's a truth universally acknowledged that some traditions should be left to die. However, in honour of Frances and her absenteeism, we will keep this noble tradition alive for just one more year, in what will be for me either a career-defining or for a career-ending moment. So, Minnie, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, you've got song sheets on chairs. This is Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday, okay? Gusto, not finesse, right? I'm not a good singer. You know, the time has just flown by. Gone in the blink of an eye. Thank you. Together last was in Dubai. 20 years since our first meeting, and across all of those years, there's been joy and a few tears. But we have all come on through to be one big EuRA family, and I'm sure you would agree that this amazing industry and what it means to you and me on this anniversary. Come on, happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday. So now we understand that it's in the EuRA brand to be the best that we can be, with that global seal of quality. And so we brought together from afar to figure out GDPR. Learn, discuss, and hit the bar. Work hard, have fun, and learn new skills. It's that time of year again to meet and make new friends, which always pays dividends when they don't drive you round the bend. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday, EuRA. Happy birthday. Thank you very much. Well done, everybody. Woohoo! I think it's clear I'm never going to make the X Factor finals, but thank you, EuRA. Yeah. Happy birthday.
And having had to live through the writing of the lyrics, really, no more, never again. Yes, quite. Okay, now we move on to the next part of this presentation, but firstly I'd like to ask the extended board if they wouldn't mind leaving the stage. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Helmut and Peggy and say goodbye to them. Thank Dominic. But now I'm going to welcome Stuart McAllister, who has a short presentation for us.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been given the honorable task of talking about the globalization of EuRA. This is our bid for world domination. It's been creeping over the past few years. You'll probably have noticed. But before we talk about that, let's look at a little history. Once upon a time, there was a young man called Tad. You didn't know about that, did you?
I don't like that one.
Minnie and Maria helped me to surprise. I believe the one on the left, according to Minnie, is from Barcelona, 1998.
Yes.
Yes, not much has changed, to be fair.
I don't like that one.
No. 1998, so yes, Tad formed the European Relocation Association with the goal of bringing together European destination services providers to share common goals, best practices, to network, and so on. My first EuRA conference was 2004 in Copenhagen, and I think really it's the last 10 years that I've seen that we've transitioned from being ostensibly a Western European relocation organization to being, first of all, from where I am, Central Eastern Europe, and then rapidly global as an organization. And I think here you can actually see we have right now 504 members, of which 362 are European members by our categorization, but it means 142 have no location in Europe whatsoever. And it's also worth mentioning that the European members also include global members who have a European base but could also have offices elsewhere around the world. Now, and by the way, at this point, I'd like to, this is not on behalf of EuRA, this is my own personal opinion. What I think that Tad and Dom and the EuRA staff and boards past and present have done is to build the world's largest organization for destination service providers and associated professions. I think that's an absolutely amazing achievement, and I think it's worth a round of applause, don't you? I can't really believe that I have the honor of being here. It's amazing. So yes, we have been over the last few years trying to work out what we should do in terms of the globalization of EuRA and how we present ourselves, and also what we can do to better represent the interests and goals of our members from outside Europe. Initially, our concept was that we would become an organization for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and not only Europe. And we sat there and decided very rapidly in 2016, I think it was around March, and we said, right, we're going to Africa. And sure enough, Cape Town took place in November 2016. It was an amazing conference, small bijou, a little bit like going back to the beginning of EuRA in the early days. And that followed logically then last year with the Middle East, with our 2017 conference in Dubai. But hang on a minute. We thought, if we go back to the pie chart, Africa and the Middle East, that's 31 members in total. There's more than that in Southeast Asia and Australasia alone, and many more in the Americas. So how do we represent them? Well, we thought about that and whether we should, we should rebrand. I mean, is this a big moment where we should sort of, is EuRA not the right name for us anymore? Clearly, we're not the European Relocation Association, but we do call ourselves EuRA. So we thought about that, and we thought, well, is it the right time after 20 years to change the name? So we were actually in the lobby of this hotel. There was beer involved and wine, but sometimes brainstorming's better over a drink. And we came up with a few ideas of what we could rename the organization as in the future. And obviously, it had to be a great acronym. EuRA is a great acronym. It rolls off the tongue nicely. So we had to come up with something better. So we were thinking, and my first one was the Professional Organization for the Relocation of Nationalities. It sounded great, but it did have a bit of a problem. So yeah, we had to scrap that idea. You can imagine the Google search. No. So then another member of the board said, well, okay, what about the Corporate Relocation Association for Professionals? Yeah, also challenging, and we weren't sure that name really reflected our core values. Probably we should move on from that slide. So yes, as the slide said, sometimes the simplest solutions are the best, and maybe they're just staring you in the face. So it actually took a conversation between Tad and Christine Martin, a former board member and owner of Olympic Advisors in Barcelona, to realize how simple it is. And Christine more or less said that, well, after you've done with Dubai, you just carry on around the world on a tour. And then over the course of, I don't know, let's say a 5-year cycle, you'll represent the needs and interests of all our members worldwide with a series of conferences. Now, it wasn't that hard for me. I mean, as a board member, I'm like, "Guys, so I have to go to all these countries around the world, even at my own expense. I don't mind." Sure, okay. So, sounds good to me. And of course, but what should we call ourselves? Dead easy. EuRA Global. So I'm a branding nut. So when you come to this conference in Europe, I'm not giving away too much, am I? Next year's conference will be in Europe. It will be called EuRA. And the website will be EuRA, and the organization is EuRA. But whenever we have our global conference, we're going to be called EuRA Global. That's it. Anyway, and let me just finish with an advertisement, if I may. In November of this year, 14th to the 16th, we will be going to Goa, India. It's going to be amazing. You can sign up right now, after the session. Don't get your phones out, not just yet. It's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be the largest of the 3 global conferences that we've had so far. I know that the take-up of sponsorship has been amazing from our Indian members, and we're very, very excited about that conference. And I think without further ado, thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to Andrew.
Thank you, Stuart. And Andrew.
Thank you, Stuart. And
I need a chair.
well, firstly, I can say I'm not going to talk about porn, and hopefully it won't be a load of CRAP, but I'll let you all decide on that one. So when we were sat in the lobby having a drink, or maybe a couple of drinks, I then came up with what I thought at the time might be quite a good idea, and that was, look, why don't we, at the beginning of the session and the opening of the conference, why don't we give some feedback in terms of what other people within our industry, so other members are thinking with regards to the theme of the conference, which is embracing change, thriving and surviving. And we all said, yeah, that seems like quite a good idea. And it did until about 60 seconds ago. But no, what I want to do is hopefully just put a bit of a framework around some of the things that I know may have already been discussed in some of the sessions today, and I'm sure are going to be some of the topics over the next few days. And to do that, what we did was we sent out a short survey monkey linked to a number of key leaders in our industry. And they didn't have, unfortunately, an awful lot of time to respond, but that usually makes people kind of think pretty quick, and sometimes the first things that come to people's minds are sometimes the best ideas and suggestions. So we sent out this link, and this was to a good number of leaders of small, independent destination service companies, to some leaders in service department companies, and to some leaders of some of the big organizations that are here and supporting us this week. And what I wanted to do was just give you some of the feedback. So we've asked these questions, and what are the kind of comments that people have come back with. So I'm just going to run through a few of these. And we'd kind of themed it, or I'd themed it, teams to technology, and that's primarily because of the questions that we asked. There kind of was a bit of a theme going on in terms of a lot of the responses. So without further ado, the first thing that we asked everyone was, what words would you use to describe the state of our industry? And I don't know if you can see up there, but there's a kind of selection of those. But the top themes, and again, a lot of this won't necessarily come as a great surprise, but I think it's just interesting that this was comments and feedback we got less than 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of pretty much hot off the press. And it was around that the market is constantly changing, the requirements from our clients is changing, and there's a desperate desire with some clients to kind of seek new solutions. And that's, I know, something that's going to be talked about in some of the sessions throughout the course of this week. What I also thought was interesting was that and this was a pretty solid consensus, was that the size of the market that we're operating in is growing. So that's a big positive. Obviously, how we as an industry access that growing potential, again, will be things that a couple of which I will share, and things that will be talked about, I'm sure, for the course of the next few days. Another point that came out was just how, and the word was used in bold with one of the responders, which was hyper-competitive. And that is, and really what they were saying there is that it is an extremely competitive industry. There's more choice for customers now. Customers are much more sophisticated in how they're buying and have more choice, which drives can drive a number of different factors. So in terms of what's keeping people up at night, because that's always a good question, and I thought the first comment here, which was a really interesting one, because I know there's going to be quite a lot of talk this week about technology, and without reading the text, it's very much that we are a people business. I think there is a definite understanding within all of this audience and wider within our industry that being able to enhance technology can hopefully make us more efficient. But let's not forget, that there is a personnel element to this, and how can we make sure that we look after both of those. But other key things that came out, so these are comments that we received from many of the recipients. What was keeping them up at night was how to retain their talent within their organizations. Others that won't come as a surprise, in red at the bottom, revenue challenges, cost compression versus, increase in operational costs. And as I say, none of these will come as a great surprise. Another key one, which was around GDPR, but it was also really around compliance, how compliance has so much more of a focus with organizations. And it's not just being compliant, it's also sometimes the cost of that compliance within any organization, and how can you make sure that you can kind of control that as well. So moving on from what keeps people up at night, we'd also ask, what's the greatest challenge in the relocation industry for leaders in the industry? And, touching on what I just mentioned, retaining talent and motivating that talent was pretty much the number one thing that came out. And also being able to embrace change and help drive that change throughout their organization. And the pace of that change, and how can they make sure that the changes that they want to make are being pushed through, one, at a pace that will ensure that they still can remain competitive and effective with their customers, but it still works with regards to the teams and all the staff that are within that organization. We'd also ask, what's the greatest challenge that they see in terms of within the relocation industry itself? And speed of change was one, or the speed of that required change. In terms of increased costs, that operating costs in general are increasing, and there's still that compression with regards to fees in certain areas. And there were some comments around the political landscape, in terms of in certain countries, different governments are taking slightly different perspectives on, how they want to protect their own economy, and whether that will have some impacts, and I'm sure that might for certain, countries and organisations that are here with us this week. And another one which I thought was interesting was, if there's a lack of vision, then that can seriously affect the long-term viability of any organisation in terms of being able to remain competitive and being able to make sure that they're driving, the required innovation within their organisation, what that may be. And the slide is really here just showing, of those comments, what are people thinking that they need to put the focus on to succeed, and obviously if they don't, what the potential outcome is for them and their organisation. And jumping to teams, there was a question, how do you encourage creative thinking? And I thought it was really interesting, some of that, and I'm just picking out some of the key points that came through here, and one which, if we pull all the different threads together, kind of told the same story, which was around, make sure that you're, as a leader, you are insightful, making sure that everyone within your organization understands what, the company's vision and mission is, and, be very, very clear about that. And to create a comfortable and inclusive environment, so that people feel comfortable in terms of exchanging ideas, and that's very much about ensuring that everybody is valued within that organisation, and that there is the right environment that they can share ideas, make comments, etc. And different organisations obviously do that in different ways. But again, I thought it was just interesting that it was very high up in terms of what organisations and what these leaders think. And someone also made another interesting comment, which was, as a leader, some people tend to think, if you're a leader, you should have the answer to everything. And what this individual was saying is, it's not a weakness not having the answer to everything. It's making sure that you're asking, the right questions of the people that are working with you, and that they have, the appropriate tools, and they feel in the right place to be able to, help guide you when necessary. We then asked, one characteristic that every leader should have, and I kind of particularly like this slide because someone who is very, very clever has worked. There is some kind of algorithm that you can put in, and the words that you see that are the strongest and the biggest is the comment that came out the most. So, vision was the number one trait that everybody, indicated that they should have as a leader, or they felt that either they had, or that was what was appropriate for their organisation. We also asked, what are the priorities for you in your business in 2018? And again, got a number of different themes back here, but when we kind of looked at them, they really kind of fell into, certain buckets. And again, I don't think any of this will come as a great surprise, but where people were saying they're going to kind of focus their energies in terms of in 2018 was how they could leverage technology. And again, that can kind of mean different things to different people. So, I'm just giving some comments and thoughts for what came from some of the responses. So, and it was around how can they use technology to find solutions that can make their businesses more more efficient. And it was the efficiency which seemed to be the key driver. And I know there's a number of sessions this week where people will be talking about APIs, which is maybe part of a solution, but it's only a part of it. Another comment which came up, or we managed to kind of find the right kind of box to put that in, was about ensuring that they establish scalable systems. So what that was where they were looking at, we think we're in a position where we're going to be able to grow our business. How can we make sure that, the further foundation that we have will enable us to grow that, in an appropriate way, so that we're not, constantly chasing to try and, build in new processes, put in new systems, etc. So, and again, if you think about it from a leader's point of view, that's what they would be looking at: is how can we make sure that we're, got our things in place, ducks in a row, as we would say in the UK, in terms of pushing our business further forward. Bringing new solutions to the market. And again, there's no specifics per se here, because we did ask a range of leaders across various different business lines. But I think what this one is putting the focus on is making sure that you're constantly looking at what do you think your customer needs, and how might we be able to deliver on that. And another one which was interesting was international expansion. And again, that I kind of read from that people are confident that there is a strong future for them and their business. And one of the ways that they were looking to increase the growth of that was through expansion into new territories. But I think the number one, or the point that came out the strongest, was around team development. And again, coming back to this, how do we make sure that we look after the talent and grow the talent that we've already got? And again, I'd say nothing that is kind of earth-shattering, but it was just interesting it was particularly from my point of view, just to see, as leaders, what are the things that people are focusing on. And finally, we'd ask the question, what's the future going to bring? And here, we've kind of dug a little bit deeper, and I was somewhat, not necessarily surprised, but some of the responses here were perhaps things that didn't immediately kind of click with me, but maybe that's why I'm not a leader of a business. Who knows? So I've kind of just picked some headings here from some of the themes that we got. When they were talking about rapid urbanization, and a number of people used different terminology, but it all kind of meant the same thing as far as we could gather, having looked through some of the content. And this was around, how are cities going to evolve and grow, and that will be very much driven by, governments, local governments to a certain extent, people and business, and then what impact will that have potentially on their business in that environment. And I think kind of reading through some of that it wasn't necessarily with a big focus on maybe what's happening in Europe, because we didn't, there weren't any specific towns, cities, or even countries mentioned, but just the theme I got was that this could have an effect and open new markets that perhaps, people aren't operating in at the moment. Another one which I thought was really interesting was, climate change and resource scarcity. And really the focus there was around, making sure that as an organization, they're doing their bit, doing the right thing to, ensure that they're, being as economical with, the Earth's resources as possible. And there were a couple of comments that related to how, customers and clients are having much more of a focus on how do you, as an organization, how can you make sure that, you're limiting, the amount of effect, goods that you're using, whatever it may be, whatever line of business you're in, so that you're kind of, keeping as green as possible. Another one was, about the shift in global economic power, and I think there was probably a relevance maybe to China there. And within that, there were comments around, will protectionism in certain countries have an impact on, how business is done, who's able to do business, and again, there's an element of uncertainty there, but it was just one of the comments that was mentioned on more than one occasion. demographic and social change was another one. Again, what we've done is there were various comments and we've put them under those or under that particular heading. And I think that what we could read from that was, that, and we've talked about millennials, and I'm sure that word is going to come up numerous times over the next, few days. But the types of customers that potentially are going to be the customers of the future, what they will look like in terms of how do we interact with them, how can we sell to them, how do we deliver to them, and also how culture and the culture of the customers potentially is going to change. That, and I'm probably not saying that right. It's not their culture will change. They'll be just we may be dealing with more and more people from cultures that perhaps we've not had such an exposure to in the past within our industry or in any terms of volume. And then technological breakthroughs, which again comes back to what focus organizations are going to have in terms of being able to work smarter and work faster and be more efficient. And within that, there were some comments that that it was only 20 years ago when Google arrived on the scene, as did Amazon, etc. And there's nothing to say that there couldn't be another kind of Google, Amazon that may step into our industry and become a disruptor, become a partner, etc. So I think it's not that there are going to necessarily be breakthroughs in technology with regards to what organizations within our industry are doing. It was more, there may be something out there that provides an advantage or an opportunity to help companies with and move forward. So I know that was very much a kind of a whistle-stop tour, and I think there are some things in there which, again, I found it all interesting, and I'd like to thank personally all of those who were involved in responding, of which I know there are a number here. So thank you for that. And maybe, who knows, in the future there might be an opportunity just to dig a bit deeper into some of these things, because some of them are, the topics I think, we could probably, spend an hour or more, and maybe there's lots more that we could learn in terms of getting some leaders up here to maybe talk to us all. So I think from me, it's back to Tad. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. So, now we need to look at the future. Where do we go from here? Okay, I'm just going to talk about a few of the things EuRA is doing, and then we'll be having our opening keynote speech. We are going to look to expand our access to free training programs. Currently, 3 out of the 4 MIM modules are available online. The 4th will be uploaded in September. We're also developing a MIM Plus program, and this will start with a MIM Plus session on GDPR. Hooray! And with a much, much broader program to come over the coming years, which is being developed by Dom in conjunction with our strategic consultant for education, Dr. Carmelina Lawton-Smith. The relocation coaching program, which was developed in conjunction with Oxford Brookes University, will also eventually, hopefully by the beginning of 2019, make its way into the MIM program. Now, continuing our expansion of our legal services program, members will already have access to our excellent legal guide developed by our strategic consultant for legal services, Gordon Kerr, and we've also recently published a guide to, GDPR. And we'll be expanding these initiatives over the coming year. Some of these things will get into our training programs. We are continuing, as Stuart mentioned, to reach out to our members globally with our 3rd EuRA Global event taking place in Goa. In 2019, we're going to go to Asia, and in 2020, move on to South America. We're also building on inter-industry collaboration. We will continue to strengthen our relationship with our brilliant mobility partners, Peggy Smith from WERC, Steve Cryan from CERC, Jesse Van Sants from FIDI, and Terry Head from IAM. I'm particularly pleased to welcome Terry for his first ever EuRA this year. Together, we will be sharing a panel which will be led by Gordon Kerr on Friday at 10 o'clock. Be there, please. We will also continue to put our resources into widening the communication channels within the mobility supply chain. I'm very grateful to everybody, all the RMCs who've taken part in our RMC meetings, and for the RMCs and DSPs who've participated in the RMC DSP Forum. There are to be 2 sessions on this subject during this conference. The first will take place immediately following this opening session, where the DSPs will prepare the questions that they're going to put to the RMCs tomorrow. Over the next year or a few years, we're going to be continuing to develop our investment in IT and tech. Bryony and the team, assisted by our strategic consultant for communications, Fiona Klump, have recently designed version 2.0 of our web portal, which will be going live incrementally during the summer. Members will have the ability to post articles, get involved in discussions, and most importantly, access our members-only resources, ranging from online training programs to our brilliant social media platforms. FaceTime, wasn't it? Yeah. Please check out our social media, especially after this conference, because we'll be loading all the sessions we film onto YouTube, and all the other presentations will also be available online to members. Don't forget to use the hashtag EuRA Dubrovnik and to tweet as much as you like, saying wonderful things about this conference. And by the way, there's our new app. If you haven't downloaded it, please do. There's a vast array of information on it, far too much for me to get my head round. And it also enables you to track down delegates, send messages, make sure you're in the right place at the right time to meet somebody. And it's very important to Brian, as she wants to see a 100% take-up of the app from delegates. Personally, I think 85% will do. EuRA continues its emphasis on quality and compliance. If you haven't looked at the EuRA Global Quality Seal, well, get on and do it. Our strategic consultant for quality standards, Martina Sharvai, has a drop-in clinic. You can go and talk to her. She's out there in the exhibition hall. She's also running a session for EGQS holders, and she'll be more than happy to talk to everybody. That session, by the way, is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Now, we've already mentioned the content of this conference and the many, many things that we're doing, but I'd really like to thank our strategic consultant for intellectual content, who is indeed Peggy Love, for really pulling together a great program from a multitude of sessions that were submissions that were actually reviewed by the board. Do not miss tomorrow's Friday's Ignite session, managed by Executive Board member Michelle Brownscroft. And I have to tell you, a great deal of time and effort has been put into that, and also, in many respects, a great deal of efficient bossiness from Peggy has been made in order to get this session together. If, by the way, you'd like to lead a session at next year's conference, the calls for succession will be going out. Sometime later in the year. Now, quickly turning again to the executive group, I really want to thank them for the fantastic work they do. They do it for free. They smile, they come to conferences on their own dollar. It's absolutely fantastic. They're a dynamic group, and they help this organization to move forward. And personally, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to work with them. But most of all, I want to thank you lot for your continued support and faith in the association. EuRA has been through some rocky times, but the support of our fantastic members has seen us through difficult days to brilliant, bright ones like today. Well, I know we're in darkness, but you know. Have a great conference, but before I go, we come to housekeeping. Peggy has given me a few tips on how to be bossy, like I need any. Wear your badge at all times, please. And also, please wear it to the party night if you're coming to the party night, because they have asked how they will recognize the people attending the party. Well, there we go. As I said, we're really grateful for the support and loyalty of our members and friends. And as a result, the board have asked me to say that we have a zero tolerance policy towards people who do not register coming to the event for meetings. You've all paid to be here, and it's a little bit like cheating. Everyone registered is listed on the app, whether or not they've downloaded it. If, by the way, this evening you haven't made a restaurant reservation, I strongly suggest you do. However, there is an alternative. The Oregano restaurant will be offering a buffet at 230 kroners, so you don't actually need to book for that. Just go to that following the opening drinks reception. My final word has to go to this year's charity. Now, I'm going to make a complete hash of this, but I'll try. The Marina Drujica Special School. And we're supporting it in several ways. We have a live auction and a silent auction. By the way, the bids on the silent auction stood at 3,900 euros just before the start of this session. Please visit the EuRA market. There are frisbees, beach balls, baseball caps, yes, even umbrellas, and polo shirts, etc., to buy. We have a fun run, jog, or in my case, stroll, on Friday morning. If you'd like to enter, please go to the EuRA check-in and pay your 25 euros. You will receive a stunningly beautiful t-shirt. A number of you have pre-registered for this run and haven't actually paid, so please go and make your payment and you'll get your t-shirt. We have the galleon transferring people to the party on Friday. This has raised 3,750 euros and is now full. However, some of you have booked tickets, but you haven't paid. If you don't hurry up and pay, we'll resell your tickets to people who've got money. It's 30 euros per person. We have also arranged transfers from the Vladimir hotels, and on the basis that a cab costs 35 euros each way, please put a little donation in the box if you use the buses. What we're trying to do here is we're looking to raise enough money to refurbish the physical therapy centre and to expand and enhance the life skills program at the school. I thought I was going to have a whole load of balls thrown at me. That was absolutely pathetic. They're 5 euros each. Finally, I'm afraid you have to wait a little bit longer before we hear from Dave Coplin. I'd like to welcome Zrinka onto the stage. She's from the school. She's going to pronounce its name properly and tell us a little bit about it.
Dear EuRA friends, happy anniversary, happy 20th birthday.
Thank you.
I'm Zrinka Capor. My name is Zrinka Capor, and I'm headmistress of Marin Držić Elementary School. let me tell you who was Marin Držić, just briefly. Marin Držić was a very famous Renaissance writer whose best play is Uncle Maroe, which was recently translated in English. And our school was founded in 1963, and 2 years later, city of Dubrovnik recognized the need to set up school departments for children with disabilities. To this day, our school remains the only one in our county that has an organized department for children with disabilities. Work with our students is very complex and demands multidisciplinary approach. Our main goal is to follow contemporary scientific methods, so we strive to keep pace with the world trends, not only in working with our students, but also in spatial planning of the school. For the last couple of years, we have been trying to organize our classrooms in the way that they alone are stimulating for learning and that they fit the world's standards. We are slowly but certainly achieving our goal, but we still have a lot to do, a lot of work. Our plan for the close future is to equip the gym with specialized, which will be specialized for our students, and a cabinet for assistive technology. Many of our students have dysfunction, so the gym would meet their needs. Also, majority of our children are not verbal, so we need to find a way to give them their own voice, which we'll try to do with communicators and other assistive technology. We are very grateful for this opportunity, dear friends of EuRA, that you are giving us, because what you are giving us, with your help, and we are one step closer to achieving our goal, which is to provide our most vulnerable group of students with the best treatment possible in their hometown and in their county. Once again, thank you for your kindness and all the things you have done and will do for our school. I wish you all the best at your Congress in Dubrovnik, good weather and pleasurable time in the city of Dubrovnik and Sun Gardens.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zrinka.